Hey, so for those of you who don't, my neighbor, for those of you who don't follow me on Instagram, I put up stories of my sparring with Yodkin Pond. So I film us in the morning, and then I'll like make these little maybe 10 to 20 second clips that are just showing little moments within that. And I often put like a text overlay about what was happening or what I was thinking or feeling in that moment. So right now I'm editing this morning's sparring with Yodkin Pond, and in the way that I'm typing over it, like what I'm seeing and what I'm thinking about as I'm putting it together, it's all very like the benefits or purposes of light sparring and what light sparring means. And it kind of got me thinking that there needs to be a little bit of a bigger explanation of light sparring and hard sparring and kind of what that means, because I think that a lot of people don't actually agree completely on what that means and don't know completely what that means. I see it a lot online, people talking about how in Thailand all the sparring is very light, very technical, very controlled, and this is true. Like this is all mostly true, but with a lot of like asterisks and like caveats and stuff like that. So firstly, it is not entirely always light sparring in Thailand. There's a lot of hard sparring in Thailand also. It's just usually when you're much younger, and that's because you don't have control yet. The lighter sparring comes about because you spar very often, because you're fighting very often. And it's also because you become much more experienced. And light sparring when you're not very experienced is really hard. Like it's not something that you can do right away because you just don't have control of your body. So you're told to go light, which is good. You should go light, not go full power. But one, you get kind of emotional because you're not experienced. And two, you don't know how hard you are hitting and things like this. And so you think you're going really light, and your sparring partner is telling you, no, you're not going very light. And you're like amping each other up, and it's like getting very heavy and this kind of thing. So I will say that as a beginner or even intermediate, someone who's not incredibly experienced in sparring or in fighting, it is hard to go light. And so you will have this kind of like disequal experience of how hard and how light your sparring is going. Another thing that I can't really say in these videos, that the reason I'm making this video to talk about a little bit, is that hard sparring has a purpose. Like hard sparring is actually important in many ways. And I think that it is also a precursor to what you're able to do or how you're able to benefit a lot from light sparring. So without hard sparring, you don't get that kind of pressure or that kind of like fear response. You actually do need to kind of like get past the, oh my God, heart rate rising, all of these different things. That this will happen in light sparring too, but the hard sparring kind of like gets you more acclimated to this kind of pressure and experience. In this little clip that I was just putting together, there's an exchange between me and Yodkin Pond, which is a lot of like near misses and then acknowledgement of that would have gotten in, even though we're hitting each other's guard as a practicality, as like a way of not injuring each other. We're hitting each other's guard, but there is a complete acknowledgement between two of us that in a real fight, I would not be hitting your guard, that would actually be hitting my face. My nose would be broken, like all of these different things. And I don't think that you can do that when you haven't done hard sparring or if you haven't fought a lot. You have to have the experience of having don. In Thai it's called don, is when you actually get hit by something. You have to have had the experience of actually receiving it in order to acknowledge that that would have landed when it doesn't. And I think that there's a difficulty in people who only light spar. And I've seen this on Reddit. I've seen people complaining about this on Reddit, that there are sparring partners who will just walk through things that they wouldn't be walking through in a real situation because you're going light, so you can walk through it. But there's no acknowledgement, there's no respect to what that thing actually was. And the reason there's no acknowledgement and a respect to it is because there's not the experience behind it to know that that would have stopped me. There's a kind of funny thing. I was watching the next session in the Muay Thai library that's going up. I'll be voicing it tomorrow. It's Jaran Sop. Jaran Sop was Fighter of the Year in 1992. We already have one session with him in the Muay Thai library, but we have a second one going up. And I'm sparring with him in this session, and he's kind of like durning. He's like coming after me, and I'm throwing a bunch of stuff to try to keep him off of me. And I throw this elbow that's like a good 8 inches away from his face. Like, it didn't come close, but it's this thing where it's like, you as an experienced person know that would have gotten you. Like, if I had actually leaned in and gone for that, that would have got him. And he walks through it, and I was laughing as I was watching it in preparation for the voiceover, because I'm like, there's a difference between people walking through things because they're not respecting what it is that you threw. And then there's also this, like, he would have walked through that. Like, I can see in what his style and intentions and abilities are, he would have gotten cut by that and literally just kept coming forward. So there's a important element to harder sparring where people are forced to respect your weapons. And I don't mean elbowing people in the face, but I mean like leg kicks and punches and stuff like this, that like you have to know that actually got on me before you advance to a level where you're like, that would have hit me. Like, I know that would have hit me. And a lot of what Yodkin Pond and I are doing in our light sparring, because we spar lighter now. We sparred very hard for a number of years, and now we're doing much more light sparring. We took our headgear off to kind of like enforce this lighter sparring. A lot of that depends on the experience between the two of us to be able to acknowledge that would have got me. Like, we both know that would have got me without it actually coming in. So that's what this little vlog is about, is just this kind of acknowledgement that hard sparring has a place, and light sparring is very, very good and excellent at teaching you kind of timing and placement and not hurting each other, but you have to have had the real pressure and the real experience in order to know where those things are placed. And even when you're light sparring, the dominance is always real. Like, you keep the dominance real all the time. And that's what keeps people respecting the things that you're throwing, that you're not actually landing. And that's what keeps everything real, is that the dominance is real, the pressure is real, the way you move your body, your proximity, the weapons that you're throwing, not allowing openings. Without actually bashing your sparring partner, you are creating real pressure and real dominance. And that's how light sparring, without the weapons being hard, that's how light sparring has all of the benefits that it has in terms of like practicing timing and rhythm and openings and things like this, is that you do want to also have that base to allow people to have the acknowledgement of what's actually really happening in that situation.